A diplomatic storm is brewing in East Asia. The United States has now stepped directly into the escalating conflict between Tokyo and Beijing, voicing what it calls unshakable support for Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi. The row has grown from fiery words in parliament to serious economic and diplomatic consequences. China has already blocked imports of Japanese seafood, suspended joint events, and even warned its students and tourists not to travel to Japan. Today, we break down what's happening, why it matters for Asia and the world, and what this could mean for the fragile balance of power in the region. This dispute all started earlier this month, during a session of the Japanese parliament on November 7th. Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, Japan's so-called Iron Lady, made a statement that in theory, if China attacked Taiwan, Japan could respond militarily. While framed as a hypothetical, this was the first time a sitting Japanese prime minister had publicly discussed such a scenario in parliament, and it immediately sparked outrage from Beijing. China claims sovereignty over Taiwan and has repeatedly threatened to annex it by force if Taiwan resists unification. To Beijing, Takaichi's comments were seen as interference in what it considers an internal Chinese matter and were interpreted as a sign of reviving Japanese militarism. Within days, the rhetoric escalated beyond words. The response from China was swift and increasingly aggressive. Officials announced a ban on Japanese seafood imports, a market that has been crucial for Japan's fishing industry. Several diplomatic and cultural events were also suspended, including a trilateral meeting between China, Japan, and South Korea's culture ministers. The stakes grew even higher when China's consul general in Osaka posted a highly provocative message on social media, since deleted, that appeared to be a veiled threat to Takaichi. The message read, "If a filthy neck sticks itself in uninvited, we will cut it off without a moment's hesitation." Are you prepared for that? The tone shocked observers and further escalated tensions in both countries. This is where the United States comes in. George Glass, the U.S. ambassador to Japan since April, made headlines by publicly backing Prime Minister Takaichi. Speaking to reporters on Thursday, Glass described the situation as a classic case of Chinese economic coercion and emphasized that both he and President Donald Trump fully supported Japan. "We will always point out coercion," said Ambassador Glass. "We will always point out bullying and thuggery that goes on, and this is a classic case of Chinese economic coercion." These words sent a clear message. The U.S. is prepared to stand with its closest ally in Asia, even as tensions with China escalate. Asterisk, the economic fallout from the dispute is already significant. China is Japan's largest trading partner, and any disruption to exports, especially seafood, can have serious consequences for local businesses and the Japanese economy as a whole. Nearly all of Japan's 47 prefectures rely, to some extent, on exports to China, and nearly 700 Japanese exporters had applied to re-register shipments to China earlier this year after partial easing of restrictions. Now, with the new ban, companies face significant losses. Tourism is also affected. Warnings issued to Chinese students and tourists have led to widespread cancellations. More than 10 Chinese airlines have reportedly offered refunds for Japan-bound flights through the end of December, and some estimates suggest around 500,000 tickets have already been canceled. With tourism accounting for roughly 7% of Japan's GDP, the financial impact could ripple across the economy. Beyond the economics, the dispute carries serious diplomatic consequences. Beijing has indicated that Premier Li Qiang, China's second highest-ranking official, will not meet with Takaichi at the upcoming G20 summit in South Africa. Diplomatic meetings that could have promoted cooperation are now suspended, and tensions between the two nations are at a historic high. Former Chinese diplomat Victor Gao even went so far as to call Takaichi a criminal, leading Japan into an abyss of despair, illustrating the intensity of anti-Japan rhetoric in China. These statements, combined with economic and diplomatic measures, show a strategy of pressure and intimidation aimed at influencing Japan's policy decisions regarding Taiwan. Asterisk, for the United States and the international community, this is more than a bilateral dispute. Taiwan's security is a key flashpoint in global geopolitics, and any escalation could destabilize the entire Asia-Pacific region. The U.S. backing Japan signals that America is committed to supporting allies against coercion and threats, reinforcing its presence in a region where China is rapidly expanding its influence. This dispute also raises questions about economic leverage and trade as tools of diplomacy. The use of trade bans, tourism restrictions, and diplomatic intimidation is a clear example of economic coercion, which the U.S. has openly condemned. How Tokyo navigates this crisis could have long-term implications for Japan-China relations and the broader balance of power in East Asia. The next few weeks will be critical. Observers are watching for updates on trade bans and their economic impact, diplomatic negotiations between Japan, China, and the U.S., possible escalation in rhetoric or threats impacts on tourism and Japanese exports. Prime Minister Takaichi's position remains firm with the backing of the U.S. However, there is currently no obvious off-ramp, according to diplomats in Tokyo. This could mean that tensions remain high until clear negotiations or agreements are reached. Asterisk, closing segment and call to action, 1530 to 1630. Asterisk, in conclusion, the road between Japan and China is far from a simple disagreement. It involves military rhetoric, economic pressure, and high-stakes diplomacy, with the United States now firmly stepping into the picture. The unfolding situation will shape the future of East Asia, impact global trade, and test international alliances. What do you think? Will Japan stand firm against China's coercion, or could this dispute escalate into a larger confrontation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for in-depth news updates and analysis on the most important stories from around the world. Asterisk,